Everybody, welcome to our discussion on this topic, which is vesting conditions under share-based payments. Friends, we have talked about already what are the non-market conditions and what are market conditions, and how does it impact the accounting for the share-based payments as far as the dealing with employees is concerned. Right. What we would like to do is now talk about how to, let's say, do the accounting, how to do the quantification of the costs that must be charged in the company's P&L with respect to such vesting conditions, whether they are met or not, right? To begin with, what we would like to do is talk about something which is on the basis of non-market vesting conditions. Right? And then we'll also talk about, of course, how to do the accounting under vesting conditions, which are market-based vesting conditions. Okay, let us say that there is a company X which grants 100 options to its (500) employees. Okay. The condition is essentially a service condition which says that the employees have to serve for 3 years to become eligible for these options, and this 3 years of course becomes the vesting period. Okay, right? Let's say the fair value of the option on the grant date is $15. All right. So when we have got this figure, effectively we are saying that the total cost of the option or share-based payment ideally should be 100 into 500 into 15, right? Now this comes at, of course, 15 times 5 is 75, and we have 4 zeros, which makes it 750,000, right? And since the fair value of the option takes into consideration all aspects of probabilities, all aspects of market changes and everything, so effectively the annual cost, assuming all these employees stay, okay, should be 750,000 divided by 3. That should be ideally coming at 250,000. Okay, but then it does not really happen in real life that people stay with the organization unless there is a very strong reason to believe that they would actually for this vesting period. So effectively the entity needs to assume, of course, assume what is the likely attrition of these employees up to the vesting period. Okay. Say for example, the company assumes that 20% of these employees will not stay with the company after 3 years of time, which means that they would not be able to avail this option, and accordingly those options shall not vest with the 20% but only with the 80% people. So effectively what we are saying now is that my cost of the SBP, in this case of course it is the employee stock option plan, will be 100 into 500 into 15 into 80%, and this comes at 600,000. Okay, right? Now since this is 6,000, it means that the annual cost stands at 600,000 divided by 3, that comes to 200,000. Is it okay? So effectively what you would notice is, what you would look at is two important things that an entity needs to consider. One is of course this attrition rate, that obviously changes the calculations, and of course you look at the fair value of the option on the date of grant. So these are the two variables which require some more understanding, some basis, because they would be difficult to measure. Rest all comes straight away from the accounting policy. Of course, the fact remains that the 500 employees, okay, with 100 options, how many people would discontinue? Now this depends on the industry. A very fast growing industry may witness also a higher turnaround of people, okay, whereas a more stabilized business, more consistent business, saturated businesses do not really see a need for a higher attrition rate. So that's what also needs to be considered while relying on the management estimate, or if you're the management yourself, to be able to conclude that this is going to be 20% or plus or minus. Of course, you need to understand how is industry's competitors' attrition rate going on. So you may want to use that basis for this calculation. Okay, right? Now let us say, for the sake of argument, everything holds true, but at the end of year 1, at the end of year 1, 20 people left already. Okay, so the accounting needs to be done, but here you look at it that effectively out of 500, 20 are gone. So essentially out of 480, I need to assess how many people would stay with the business by the end of the 3rd year, which is the vesting period. Okay, so if I say that, I'm essentially looking at it that what would be my attrition, and let's say putting a number here is that essentially 25% of people would discontinue by the end of vesting period. Okay, that essentially means that now my calculations would change. Okay, I haven't yet done the accounting. So assuming initially we said that if 20% people leave, my annual cost should be $200,000. We already calculated that. But now considering that 25% would be the attrition, essentially my cost of ESOPs will be 100 into 500 into 75% into 15. So when I do this calculation, I get a number which is this comes at 562,500, and that divided by 3 gives me an annual cost of 187,500. Right? What we need to respect here is the fact that, of course, 20 people have left, but even at this point in time, I'm looking at how many people would stay till the end of the vesting period. So of course this 480 helps me know that yes, I have to change my estimates, which has obviously changed from 20% to 25%. But then this 20 does not really come into the calculations directly, or the 480 does not come into the calculations directly. The actual number of people leaving certainly changes my overall estimate for the whole vesting period, rather than talking about what is my year one cost here at all. Is it okay? Right? So what we need to be careful about is that we're always looking at what is my estimate around that so-called as non-market vesting condition, which is essentially the service condition. How many people would stay up to the vesting period is the question to be considered. Okay? Right? So this is year one. We still want to obviously continue with this part. 20 people had left. Right? So my year one cost comes at 187,500. The accounting of it is quite straightforward. I'm saying debit employee cost, credit equity reserve 187,500. Okay. Now this is the first part. Let us say, so this is my year one, 20 people left. Okay. Let's say year two, 60 people left. And now we are saying that the revised estimate comes at 30%. Originally we thought 20%, by year end 1 25%, by year end 2 we are saying no, it is 30%, which means what? It means that now my total cost, total revised cost shall be 100 into 500 into 70% into 15, and this figure comes to me as 100 into 500 into 0.7 into 15. This gives me 525,000, which means that my cost up to year 2. Okay, since we are doing the calculation as on year 2, we are saying this should be 525,000 into 2 by 3, which comes at 350,000 now. Okay. Since I have already charged my year one cost of 187,500, it means that my year 2 expense should be 350 minus 187,500, and this amount comes at 162,500. Okay, it's merely a change in estimate now. Whenever we are looking at a change in service condition or non-market vesting condition, that's a change in estimate. And finally, let's talk about it. What happens at the end of year 3? Let us say year 3 comes and another 20 people resign. You would notice you are towards the end of the vesting period. People would prefer to stay with the organization because they know that something is going to come back to them. So accordingly, you would start seeing those movements and changes in the assumptions. Essentially what it means, my original number was 500, 20 left year 1, 60 left year 2, and another 20 left year 3, which means that my balance number of employees with whom the options will vest, that would be of course 400. And now it is easy, straightforward, that the total cost of option should be 100 into 400 into 15, and that comes to, of course, 600,000. Okay, this comes at 600,000, which is for the 3 years. Out of those 3 years, 350,000 out of the 600,000, 350,000 is already charged, which means that my year 3 cost comes at 250,000 here. Is that okay? Right? So essentially what we pick up out of this entire discussion is that you need to update your estimate for any changes in service conditions, non-market vesting conditions. You bring those changes and accordingly do the accounting for your share-based payments with respect to the employees, right? Now this is still about your service conditions, which are non-market conditions. Okay, the question is that while this was available as an information, what if the vesting period keeps on changing? Okay, what if the vesting period varies depending on a condition? Let's try to talk about that as well. So it's still a non-market condition, right? Here my vesting period was of course 3 years. We are saying that what if the vesting period varies with the non-market condition? Then you look at, of course, something which is the most likely outcome of that particular condition. Let's try to understand what exactly are we trying to say in this case. The best way is to understand it with the help of, let's say, an example. Okay, say for example, this is a company X. It has made an offer to employees. Okay, the offer states that there would be 100 shares available to 500 employees. Okay, the vesting period is 1 year if profits increase by 15%. Okay, so within 1 year's time you get 100 options in the company's shares, and there are 500 employees. So that is where it is. Okay, but just in case, let us say we are talking about a scenario where we are talking about, let's say, the vesting period shall be 2 years if average profits of 2 years increase by 12%. Okay, that simply means that if it doesn't happen in year 1 that you have 15%, but on an average you have 12% in total, even though it is low here and averaging later, then you still get this vesting done by year 2. And let's say 3 years, if average profits of 3 years increase by 10%. Okay, right? So precisely what we are saying is that we need to identify what is the likelihood of these profits being achieved, of course, and accordingly we need to, of course, have a clarity of what should be the cost of the options to be accounted for in the books. Okay, so precisely what we are saying is, while the length of the vesting period varies depending on whether the condition is met or not, it needs to be seen. You need to identify the length of that vesting period based on the most likely outcome of that condition. All right. So you need to be a bit more careful when you look at these kind of scenarios. If I say, in this case, the actual performance that happened in year 1, the profits increased by 12% only. Okay, right? But it is expected that the same performance would also be applicable in the second year, which means that while the year 1 condition is not met, it is expected that the year 2 condition will be met. Okay, now safely it means in year 1 the employees do not get anything, but it is expected that by the end of second year employees will get something. Okay, so they have, of course, provided benefits to the entity in year 1 as well, and there is an anticipation that they should be able to receive something in year 2, which means that at the end of the year 1 the company, the entity, needs to ascertain how many employees will remain. Okay, so my vesting period is not year 1 anymore, it becomes 2 years time here. Okay, so if I say in this case that it is expected say, for example, in year 1 20 people left, and it is expected that in year 2 additional 30 will resign, okay, before the vesting period is completed. It means that at the end of year 1, so that's what we need to do the accounting for. So at the end of year 1, the expected cost should be 20 gone, 30 further expected to go out of 500. It means that 100 shares into 500 minus 20 minus 30. Let's say the fair value of option is 2. Okay, it means that the total cost shall be 100 into 450 into 2, that comes at 90,000 here, right? But this is not year one, this is the total cost. You're just calculating at the end of year one what is the expected total cost of the option over the 2 years vesting period. That comes at 90,000. So what do? You simply say my year one cost is 90,000 divided by 2, that comes at 45. Okay, right? Now let us say even year 2 results are not great. So profits have increased by 10% only. Okay, right? So now everybody is considering what is going to happen next. Say for example, you need to again look at that the vesting period now changes to 3 years. Okay, of course some people may have further left here. So what you're looking at is, it is anticipated, it is expected that the average profits will be at least 10% over the third year. You look at the market factors, that there's a possibility that the profits which were 12% year 1, 10% year 2, average profit would come at 10% at least. But then let us say, for the sake of understanding, that in the year 2, 40 people left, okay, and another 30 expected to leave by year 3 end. Okay, right? Now of course it becomes easier, so we'll use this space and we say that essentially my total cost at year 2, the total cost means for the entire 3 years period, it should ideally be 20 people left already, okay, 40 further left, so 20 out of 500 minus 20 minus 40 and minus 30. These are all expected to leave, which means that this gives me 410. The value of the option initially was 2 and there are 100 shares, which means 410 into 2 into 100, that makes it 82,000. All right. Now the fact remains that this 82,000 should be charged over 3 years time. Okay, and then we are saying in my year 1 45 was already charged. Okay, that essentially means that my year 2 cost should be 82,000 into 2 by 3 minus 45,000. That makes it 9,667. So the huge differential between the two calculations. But having said that, since the vesting period has changed, accordingly the costs should also be charged in the books like that. Okay, right? Having done this, let us say for the sake of convenience that year 3 profits increased by 10%, and the third condition wherein said that what if the average profits increase by 10% in totality, which is very clear here, which means that options shall vest now with the employees. And now we look at the actual number. say for example, the actual number of employees stands at, so we already had 20 people living here, 40 living here, 60 already left. Let's say my actual number of employees at year 3 comes at 430 instead. Okay, that means now we are saying I'll just use those numbers here so that we don't miss out on the logic. I'm saying that my year 1 cost was 45,000, year 2 cost was 82 into 2 by 3 minus 45,000. So we just wrote that, of course, 82 into 2 by 3 minus 45, that was 9667. Okay, essentially my total cost so far is, so cumulative cost is 54667, of course. Year 3 cost, if I look at it now, my total cost would come at 430, this figure, into 100, this figure, and then 2, which comes at, of course, 86,000. And then we say already charged is 54667, so this becomes 31333 as my year 3 cost for the purposes of accounting here, right? A bit straightforward when you look at, of course, the concept of non-market vesting conditions. So effectively we are saying that we do not bring any change into the fair value calculation as on date of grant. That stays. Okay, all we look at is what is our revision of estimate as far as non-market vesting conditions are concerned. So we are saying that when we have non-market vesting conditions, then we need to just bring the change based on expected number of people or performance condition to be met, and revise the estimated cost of the ESOPs, right? And of course we need to ensure that whether the vesting period is or remains same, or is it revised, and accordingly the calculations will be taking place for us in the accounting as well. Is it okay? Yeah, that's one of the key concepts in the share-based payments accounting standard, and we need to be careful about looking at all these things when doing real life accounting. Looks good so far. So that's it from my side. Do subscribe to our channel, that is ABC Learning, and happy learning. Good day and take care. Bye.